Lately, I realized I had a problem with social media. I was spending far too much time on it. The last time I checked, my daily average was coming around to be 4 hours, especially and mostly on Twitter. Some of you might think 4 hours per day is not a bad time at all. It may be 8 hours for you. For some of my friends, it is certainly 8 hours and 10 hours per day on social media. For me, even 4 hours per day is a lot. I'm chairman of a company with more than 350 employees, and I'm running a new startup, Nintee. And every hour for me is extremely important. But frankly, more than the number of hours, I think the problem for me was how present I was in my day-to-day life. I realized that constantly I was starting to think about what's happening on Twitter, what should I post, what should I not do when I'm having a dinner with friends, when I'm going on a walk. Social media was something on my mind, and I felt very discomforted with the fact that it was taking such a high proportion of my mind share, and I wasn't okay with it. So what I decided to do was this 30-day of social media detox. In this video, I'm going to share 4 things with you. One is my journey of doing this social media detox. The second is the tips and tricks for you. Everything that I learned about how to go about doing a successful social media detox, which I just recently ended. Third, I'm going to talk about the science of addiction, whether 4 hours a day is being addicted to social media, or whether it should be 10 and 12 hours when you should start getting serious. Quick hint about it, it's not about the number of hours, but you'll get to see in this video how can you really sort of figure out whether you're addicted to social media or not. And finally, there is the fourth thing, a fun challenge for you, where you can do social media detox along with like-minded people. I'll tell you how, but you'll have to stick to the end of the video. I started my social media detox on 4th March 2023. It was actually a spur of the moment decision. I was just frustrated by Twitter being on mine, and I simply decided to do 30 days without it. So I tweeted it out that I'm going to be off Twitter, and then what I did was I blocked Twitter from all my desktop browsers. So there are different plugins available for Chrome and Firefox where you can block certain sites. So I blocked twitter.com there. I also deleted the Twitter app. That was about it. My expectations from the detox were pretty clear. I wanted to get back the control of my days. I wanted to get back control of my mind share, and I didn't want to give Twitter more attention than it really deserved. And the detox was a chance for me to sort of take a step back and really evaluate what relationship did I want to have with Twitter and other social media platforms. Yeah, the first few days were slightly challenging, not from the perspective of that I felt compulsively trying to sort of access Twitter, but it was challenging from the perspective of my hands automatically trying to go towards the same place on my screen on the phone where Twitter was. A few times I also ended up just opening a new tab and typing twitter.com only to realize I had blocked it. So the first few days in the week were all about retraining my brain to realize that Twitter was not accessible anymore. But over a period of time, what really happened was with all the extra time on my hands, I decided to actually use it for something productive. And that's been one of the realizations I had, that habit elimination is difficult, but habit replacement is way easier. So what I ended up replacing all the extra time in my days with is 2 things. One is meditation, and the other one is taking long walks around the neighborhood. I think it did wonders for mental health. It did wonders for me being present in my day-to-day life, because I was not replacing one compulsion, which was checking Twitter, with another compulsion, which could have been maybe watching a series or playing a game or so on. But I was actually replacing one compulsion or addiction, which was Twitter, something which made me more mindfully present, which is meditation and taking a long walk. So yeah, over a period of time, every day I meditated more and more, and it actually got to 45 days meditation per day, which is just sitting silently and focusing on breath, and I absolutely loved it. I think my friends did tempt me with breaking the detox, not consciously but as a joke, and of course I realized it was hard, because at different places I would if I'm on a website and there's a Twitter link, then obviously I had to go to Twitter to find it out what it was, but I had to sort of stop myself from even just going there because I knew I was off Twitter. So Yeah, by the time my detox was coming to an end in 30 days, a couple of days prior, I started sort of reevaluating what my relationship with Twitter has to be. I did not want to just go back to my past patterns and do the same thing again. So I realized that I wanted to be on Twitter to have meaningful conversations with strangers, to have deeper connects with people, and to actually also be able to sort of come across people that I can work with in my companies. And in that sense, I realized I need to treat social media and Twitter as work. So I decided to keep my mobile apps deleted for Twitter from phone, but only access social media from desktop, because I reclassified my relationship with Twitter as work. It had a very different effect on my mind, which meant that even after the detox, now I am not sort of constantly going back and trying to check the app whenever there is 5 seconds of free time, but rather I have a slot in the calendar in which I would check the Twitter and sort of just do anything to do about social media in that slot. And with all the free extra time, I'm hoping to continue my meditation and take it a much deeper way than I was doing before. As far as benefits is concerned, I definitely feel a lot more grounded. I definitely feel my life has slowed down, which is what I wanted. I feel I have less FOMO than before, because I'm not constantly trying to see what's happening on social media, what cool things other people are doing. I think I'm connected better to my friends and family as well. And it just honestly feels like going back to the childhood where you had a lot of free time and there was just a lot of free play without any compulsion of that sort. And I'm just loving it. I have 5 tips for you to help you do a successful social media detox. The first one is know why you're doing this. It's very important to have your personal reasons very clear on why do you want to quit social media for 30 days or even more. Are you trying to do it for your mental health? Are you trying to do because your relationships are affected? Or are you trying to do in order to be more creative? Or you're trying to do so that you can do more productive stuff and get ahead in your career? Different people have different reasons, and you have to be very honest for yourself on why do you want to do social media detox. Tip number 2 is to replace habits and not eliminate them. What I mean by that is unless you are very clear with what are you going to replace your social media with, it's going to be harder for you to figure out what to do with extra time. And if you're not clear what to do with extra time that social media detox frees up, you're going to see yourself compulsively going back to the old habits. I would recommend trying to replace your social media habit with something which involves physicality. So it can be gardening, it can be exercise, it can be meditation. I would discourage you to replace your social media habit with something that also sort of is more about engrossing your sort of mind into something which is related to digital screens. So do not perhaps replace your social media habit with watching a series or playing a game, because they work on very similar principles in the brain, which we are going to talk about next. Instead, if you do something physical, maybe taking a long walk or gardening, then you're going to experience a very different kind of day, which is what you want, and you'll be like more present in your days, which is a fantastic benefit to have. Tip number 3 is to practice meditation. Even though I just said that you could replace it with any of the physical activities like exercise, gardening, taking long walks, but meditation is something which is it personally helped me a lot, but also meditation helps break the cycles of addiction a little bit, because it retrains your mind to be okay with not doing anything. So like I said before, I ended up doing 45 minutes of meditation every day because I had a lot of extra time. And I realize now that the combination of not being on social media and doing more and more meditation, I think I got double the benefit than I would have if I had just given up on social media and not taken up serious practice of meditation. So I highly recommend starting with some form of meditation when you're doing social media detox, which are excellent introductions to meditation. But frankly, all you have to do is to start sitting and watching your breath, and start with 5 minutes. increase it to 10 minutes, and you can continue increasing it until you feel calmer and calmer. Tip number 4 is holding yourself accountable. So what I did was I tweeted out to my entire 140k followers that I'm going to be on social media detox for a month. Wasn't really bragging, but it was really about making sure that I put something out there publicly so that I cannot just chicken back and get into my old ways. I think public accountability helped me a lot, because if I had tweeted it out and I got back to social media, I didn't just want to embarrass myself. So it was an extra push to stick to my commitment of 30 days of no social media, because I had put that on social media. So I encourage you to tell your friends, family, maybe even sort of put it on social media, and you'll feel that you'll be much more likely to complete the detox. The 5th and most important tip is to be kind to yourself and to avoid falling in the all or none mentality. What generally happens when we're breaking bad habits, when we're breaking addictions, is that we fall into the all or none mentality, which is that even the single sort of relapse, even the single sort of break is bad. So I want to just reassure you that it's okay if you end up seeing social media once or twice during the 30-day sort of journey of detox. Do not let it derail from the longer benefit, the higher benefit that you are going to get. So if you end up checking social media once or twice, that's okay. You delete your apps again and pick up the 30-day, just continue the 30-day thing. So talking of addiction, did you know that social media activates very similar parts of brain as, say, drugs do? So in that sense, social media is literally like a drug, and I think it won't come as a surprise to you. You suspect even a small percentage that you might be addicted to it. But if you're confused, if you're skeptical kind, and you sort of ask yourself, how do I know whether I'm addicted to it or not? I think there are a couple of questions you can ask yourself. Do you feel unhappy when you're not on social media? Do you feel like getting back to it even if you're doing some other activity? Let's say you are cooking a meal, or let's say you're on a dinner with a friend. Do you feel this compulsion to sort of pick up the phone and start checking social media? Secondly, do you feel you're unable to stop once you're on social media? That part of your brain says, hey, it's too late, let's sleep now. But you feel like mindlessly scrolling, and you're just not able to stop yourself at all. If answers to any of these questions is even partly yes, I think you might be addicted to social media. But there is a very simple test that you can do to figure out whether you're using something out of joy or whether you're using something out of compulsion. I think the science and psychology of addiction is super fascinating. In fact, the relevant question is how can you tell whether you're doing something out of joy or whether you're addicted to it? I think many things we do out of joy, and that's totally okay. When life has to be enjoyed, and there needs to be joy in different things we are doing. But when does the joy cross into addiction? I think the simple test for this is to ask yourself whether whatever you're doing for joy is getting into your day-to-day functioning of other activities. The answer is yes. I think you're definitely addicted to it. For example, if you maybe take a beer once in a while for joy, it's fine. You're not addicted to it. But if you're taking beers when other people are saying you should stop it, or when you start behaving rudely when you're on beer and it impacts your relationships, or when you start skipping some productive work because you enjoy alcohol more, then you're definitely addicted to it. And similar with social media, if you're on social media and you derive joy out of it, fine. But if other people, your friends, your family start complaining that you are not giving them attention, or you feel that you didn't finish a piece of work because you spent all your time on Instagram, then it's definitely an addiction. Also, a relevant question is to ask whether you're addicted to phone or whether you're addicted to social media. I think the answer is they both sort of complement each other. Phone is like always in a hand, and you know that it's sort of like having a pack of cigarettes always in your pocket. So the easier is it to do like a bad activity or a bad habit, the more likely you'll end up doing it. So phone being always in your hand makes it much more likely to access social media than what would have happened if you accessed only social media only on desktop, because you'll have to literally go and find the table where you work at and then open it there. So one way to reduce your chances of being addicted to social media is to perhaps just access it from desktop. The Science of addiction, the neurobiology of addiction. You may have heard of this molecule called dopamine. It's sort of thrown around in different circles very frequently. Let me make it simple. So dopamine is a chemical in our brain. Technically, it's called a neurotransmitter. I like to call it a chemical of motivation. What I mean by that is that it's a chemical that trains our brain circuits to do whatever we just did to get something rewarding. And what dopamine does is that whenever we encounter something rewarding, let's say you are a child and you eat ice cream for the first time, you suddenly get a jolt of sugar. And sugar is very rewarding, evolutionarily speaking. It is full of carbohydrates that gives you instant energy. So as soon as you taste ice cream for the first time, something in your brain goes, hey, this is amazing. That is when your brain sort of learns to sort of spike or increase dopamine concentration. And what dopamine does is that the next time you see or smell ice cream, it sort of starts rising in the brain, actually increases your motivation to seek and have whatever is that gave you reward the initial time. So the next time you see an ice cream, your dopamine motivates you to get off the chair or get off from whatever you were doing and go to your friend's place and have an ice cream because they just ordered an amazing tub of vanilla ice cream. And similar with social media. On social media, the core motivations are around curiosity and social signals. So when you post something, we are social creatures at the end of the day, and we're highly motivated to know what our friends and other people think about us. So when we post and the first time we get a like or first time we get a comment, our brain circuits literally get rewired to do more of it. Because again, evolutionarily speaking, we value opinion of other people a lot more. And even if we are not posting, the curiosity of what other people are doing is ingrained in us. So what happens eventually is that dopamine literally retrains our brain to continue doing that again and again and again. And that's a literal definition of addiction. It's just not a matter of that social media gives rise to dopamine, but the reward that we get from social media increases dopamine, and that makes more likely for us to check social media. So it becomes sort of like a reinforcing loop. And because phones are in our pocket, it is just so much easier. So a small notification, or even if 10 seconds have passed and no notification, the dopamine in your mind says, hey, you should check out what's happening on social media because there might be something rewarding out there. One nefarious tactic, not nefarious tactic, but one thing which actually makes it worse is this whole variable reward. So variable reward as a term means is that anything that is surprising, dopamine rises a lot more than anything that's predictable. So if you know that there will always be ice cream in your fridge, the motivation continues to decrease because there is no new information to be had. But if you know that sometimes the ice cream vendor comes around your house, sometimes he or she doesn't, then whenever the ice cream vendor comes around, your motivation is way higher. So anything that is not predictable, our motivation just spikes through the roof. This is why slot machines work so well. This is why Candy Crush works, because every time you see something different and every time you're so close to winning, every time you're so close to getting that reward, that you're just motivated to figure this out. Basically we don't like uncertainty, and the brain motivates you extra to figure out what really is happening. And I think social media exploits this beautifully, because you don't know which friend is going to like your post or who's going to comment. You're much more likely to keep checking your phone because it's just like a black box. You know that you might get social signals, but you don't know who is it going to give and what comment they're going to make. So in that sense, social media is the perfect drug. And I hope you realize that, and I hope this realization of the science of addiction really helps you to decide that maybe it's time to take a 30 media detox. On that note, let's talk about the challenge that I introduced at the start of the video. If you suspect you might be addicted to social media, I challenge you to do similar 30-day social media detox. Here's how you do it. First, you delete all the mobile apps of social media accounts, and also block it on your desktop browser. Use different blockers on Chrome, Firefox and other browsers, but the idea is to simply make it social media inaccessible. Second, choose a habit to replace social media with. As I said before, I recommend a physical activity like gardening, taking a walk, meditation, or exercise. But it's important to be very sure of what are you going to do with your extra time and decide it upfront. Step number 3 is to simply do that physical activity whenever you feel a craving for social media. So whenever you feel like reaching out to your phone or going to the browser, just take 5 minutes off and do some physical activity to retrain your brain to associate dopamine with something beneficial, something in the present instead of something which was social media. And step number 4, as you come close to your 30-day detox, try to define what relationship do you want to have with social media, and try to be very proactively curate your experience which is productive to you instead of something that can lead to compulsion. This might mean accessing social media only on desktop, like I've decided to do that, but it could mean anything else to you. But whatever it means, have a very conscious choice of what you want to do with social media instead of leaving it up to chance. Because if you leave it to chance, you'll fall back to the same patterns and you'll feel like you're addicted again. And lastly, I want to reiterate, as you're doing 30-day social media detox, be very kind to yourself. Don't get into the all or nothing mentality. It's okay if once or twice you end up reinstalling the apps and start checking. Whenever you realize this is happening, delete and just continue your 30-day journey as if nothing had happened. I promise you that you'll be feeling better instead of relapsing and just going to old patterns again. I have a community of like-minded people who are into self-improvement at Nintee.com. So if you want to do it together with a community, you can go to Nintee.com, join the community. I and my team hangs out there, so we'd love to help you out there. I am happy to share my experience in that community. But of course, you can always do it alone, and you can do it with your friends also. The community simply makes it the chances of you being successful much more higher, because you'll have other people doing similar journeys and you can exchange notes, tips and tricks, ask questions. With that said, I wish you luck in your social media detox journey. I hope you end up doing this challenge if you feel you might be addicted to social media, and I hope you end up having a very positive relationship with social media and live a happy and in the present life. All right, bye-bye.